Hello everyone, welcome back to the recovered episode of Chaosville, episode 16. We're back at the Night of the Living Dead build, and today I am mostly going to be focusing on redecoration. And I say today, this audio is being recorded quite a bit after this footage was, because I tried everything I could to recover the face cam, which you are not seeing presently, and it was just corrupted somehow. I don't know how it corrupted, whereas episode 17, which I filmed directly after this, failed. But them's the breaks. So, what we are going to be doing is fixing up the house, whilst I wax philosophical and poetic whatnot about Tom Savini, who I've probably mentioned in earlier episodes, and I'm going to be covering at length today. So if I sound a bit like a fanboy, well, I kind of am, because he's kind of an awesome guy. But first, we kind of have to cover something interesting about this tree farm, and that happens to be balsa! Balsa! Additional balsa! Okay, so on camera me is going to start using the balsa wood, which looks rather nice, I must say, to replace, at the very least, the outer shell of the house, using the ring of interior, the wand of interior design. The ring of interior design, this isn't Tech It. And I have some notes to talk to you guys about Tom Savini. So, for those of you who don't know, he's an American actor, director, and most notably special effects and makeup artist. Originally, he wanted to be an actor alone, and started doing effects and makeup in the hope that he would be able to just sort of get his foot in the door and become an actor. Perhaps rather dramatically then, his special effects and makeup work has become the main reason that anyone knows him, because he's become a bit legendary over the years, and I'll explain why in a moment. When George Romero started up production for the original Night of the Living Dead, on which our happy house here is based on, in 1968, Savini spent a couple of weeks following him around, flipping pages of his effects portfolio for him to see. George was very, very busy at the time, but reasonably impressed with what Savini had accomplished. Unfortunately, when it actually came time for him to invite Savini to work on Night, he had been drafted into the Vietnam War as a combat photographer, which is where he spent the next few years. Remarkably, though, that particular strike of bad luck would perhaps turn out to be one of the greatest turns of fortune for this young effects artist. Because as you can imagine, Savini saw quite a few things in Vietnam, napalm burns, bullet wounds, landmine injuries, etc., etc., and all of which left a very profound and deep impact on him. He was still like a functional human being, because he drew the line by the camera lens, basically. There was the world in front of him, and there was the world behind him, and he was firmly in the other. But it left a deep impact on him. As a photographer, of course, his job was to document everything. Every, grisly, horrible wound, every exploded eye, everything. When he then returned to the States after the war, bearing in mind he kept practicing his effects work in Vietnam, he scared a lot of villagers that way, he patterned a lot of his effects based on what he saw there. If it didn't remind him enough of the actual injuries he witnessed there, he generally strived to make it look more real on camera. One quick funny little story, actually, about Savini's military service. From 1970, he was on guard watch for a United States bunker in Vietnam. It was night, and he was looking around for any possible sign of Viet Cong activity, as you do when you're on guard. A number of traps at the time were in use by the US, some of which were just landmines, and others were like flares. So you tripped it, it shot a flare into the sky, letting everyone know where you were and giving them a light to find you by. One of these was triggered near Savini. So, completely against what you're supposed to do, which is tell people before opening fire in case it's like a friendly soldier or something, Savini opens fire into the dense brush to try and riddle whatever triggered the flare with holes. Now, as any mildly intelligent marine should, seeing Savini open fire, his comrades in the bunker opened fire too, and soon the brush is destroyed by the hail of bullets going through it. There's a break in their firing as they stop to reload, and out of the devastated brush, completely unharmed, in the dead of night, under the red military flare lighting, steps a single duck. Savini earned the nickname Duck Slayer that night, and apparently he doesn't eat duck to this day. To be fair, neither have I, but everywhere. Anyways, when he got back to the States in... I think that would have been the mid-1970s, he was remembered by Romero and helped him to do some effects for the 1977 film Martin, about which I know actually very precious little. One of the effects in the opening scenes of Martin, though, is a slashing of wrists, for which Savini's talents, which he'd picked up before enlisting, practiced and been inspired for during service, and kept working on when he got back. He never stopped, basically. Impressed Romero so much that he became the lead makeup and effects artist for the 1978 film Dawn of the Dead, on which Monroeville Mole is based on. Bearing in mind that he was 32 at the time, this was a pretty good break for Savini. Savini? That's a new name. For Savini. I was like, Dawn of the Dead is one of the most legendary films ever made now. He then went on to work with Romero on Day of the Dead in 1985, and he directed the remake of Night of the Living Dead in 1990, which noticeably features a lot more special effects on the zombies. He's also appeared as a stuntman and actor in Dawn, his character in which reappears in Romero's 2004 movie Land of the Dead, as well as Grindhouse, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, Machete, most recently Django Unchained. Friday the 13th, he's done a bit of work in that. From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a very fun movie, bit stupid, but a fun movie. Children of the Living Dead, which kind of was not done by Romero, which that's a whole other story in and of itself. And a whole host of others. He has a very long working history. He's often worked on the effects and makeup for movies he's acted in as well, so if you spot him in a film, and you probably will because he is very recognizable, chances are he did the effects there too, so take appreciation. He's very much a proponent of physical effects over CGI, and he's written a couple different books on the crossover of stage magic and cinema special effects. He thinks of special effects and being an effects artist as being like a magician. The two books he's written have been called Grand Illusions, that's Grand with an E, and Grand Illusions 2. There was a third book he's done, I think, which is more or less a reprint of the original Grand Illusions. All of which you can pick up on Amazon, as is the way these days. A couple of the effects from his Night of the Living Dead remake actually bear particular note. The first is the hit-and-run zombie who gets hit in the early scenes by a truck and is then seen again a bit later trying to crawl up the hill towards the house. His legs crumpled to his side at an impossible angle for like human physiology. This was achieved, and this is perhaps telling people how to do a magic trick, so I apologize if you're not the person who likes to hear that kind of stuff. By creating a fake pair of legs attached sort of like waist level to the actor, and having the actor stand in a small hole to hide his actual legs. A kind of effect which sort of epitomizes a lot of Savini's works, which are sort of simple methods used to create very ingenious results. The second notable one from his remake of Night of the Living Dead is Uncle Reach, a big, fat kind of farmer zombie, who is batted about by Barbara with a fire poker after crashing through the landing landing railing. The majority of cuts where you see Reach are an actual actor, a police officer from Pittsburgh, actually. But in almost any scene where Barbara actually hits him, it's a very well done dummy. And because you only see the dummy briefly from the back, the illusion is created that Barbara is actually hitting a living person with her fire poker. Very, very viciously at times. As living as people tend to be when they're undead, of course. These two effects might seem pretty commonplace to film fans today, but Savini basically pioneered a lot of them. Oh yes, you can see the nice carpet that I've been working on here. I'm not sure what I was trying to say here, but anyway. He also did a bunch of work in Dawn of the Dead, which is pretty cool to think of, because he played, I believe, the character isn't ever named on screen in Dawn of the Dead, I believe, but it's referred to as Tires, sort of a biker guy who perhaps handily wields a machete. And that character at one point attacks a zombie and whacks his machete right down into the zombie's face, and you very distinctly see him throwing the machete down and it going into the zombie's face. The zombie played by an actual person, there's no dummy involved here. And again, this is a fairly simple, straightforward solution to a problem that today seems like completely obvious, but this was 1978. It's like, he invented this effectively, and what happens is that it's standard shooting for when you have the upward shot of Savini wailing down with his machete, and then for the shot where it actually enters the zombie's face, they had a cut out piece on a prop machete that rested against his face, and he just pulls it out, and they reverse the footage. So it's just a reverse shot. It's that kind of work went into Evil Dead and such, but Savini was more or less inventing it from the ground up. And that more or less covers, Savini is a really fun guy to, see just talking about anything. And he is really talented and really amazingly good at his craft, and he has a lot of experience with it. And he appears in a lot of movies, he works on a lot of movies, he's become one of the most legendary people, certainly in, zombie movies, if not, almost anything else. Just in movies in general. And he was, he was 32 when Dawn of the Dead came out. That was about, 40 years ago, 1978. So he's still got a fair few miles in him, so to speak. He'll be around for quite a bit longer. And if you have the chance, definitely go and see a movie that he has worked on, if not has appeared in, because he is I'd almost say his acting skills are him playing himself, but the same can be said of Robert Downey Jr. a lot of the time. But he is really good, and he's really worth following. And unfortunately for me, the notes I made end about now. So I shall talk about a few more things. Well, Applied Energistics has been added to the server. I can't recall if that was by request or because it was in a Dial 20 patch, but I'm intending on using that for Williams Warehouse a fair bit, because it has some pretty neat features that we could put to work quite nicely, I think. I've presently, of course, got the setup over at Williams Warehouse that's just taking inputs from the quarry. I'm not a particular big fan of teleporting them over with the ender chests, like the stuff that the quarry mines, but the quarry, in an actual real world quarry, a quarry is like a big hole in the ground basically, and you have a car that can pick up a ton of this stuff and drive it to a place somewhere further away, almost irregardless of where the quarry itself actually is, as long as you have enough fuel. In Minecraft, that's a bit trickier because we don't have cars. And if I did make a minecart train or something that just chugs along, places a track in front of itself, picks up the one behind it, it'd be very, very, very slow. And what's more, Monroeville is a Skylands, and the only materials that the trains that we presently have access to, even with Steve's carts, can put down to put a track on top of are gravity-enabled blocks, like gravel and crushed obsidian. So there's no way for me to run a train system to a quarry, even normally, without building one dedicatedly. So I kind of have to teleport them, because there's no solution, like no easy solution to this kind of problem, which is a bit of a pain, but I guess there are some things that I just kind of have to deal with. So yeah, those are being teleported through by ender chests. I have a special personal combination for that, so no one else is going to ever be able to touch onto my stuff unless I give them one, basically. I think this was about the time when I was filming this when I realized I'm basically whitewashing the outside of the house. Which is a fun thing to realize. I'm using, like, mystical arcane magics and whatnot to whitewash a building. I still need to figure out something to do with this storage room. Oh, I'm sure I'll think of something eventually. I kind of want to get the Night of the Living Dead has to be self-sufficient, so it'll have, like, maybe a generator in the basement somewhere. Possibly where the golems are now, because that's going to be like a secret hidden area for farming various materials, like food items generally. So I'll probably upgrade those iron furnaces over there to electric furnaces, and have some kind of power supply system, and just all sorts of fun stuff, really. I really want to put a lot... I'm going to have a lot of fun working on the interior of this place, once I've got the whole thing built properly. Which it more or less is now. I've just got a couple more things to fix it. Yep, this is where I realise I'm out of... Yep, I'm out of acacia wood. Yeah, applied energistics is... It has a lot of the storage features that are kind of shared by Red Power. Red Power is kind of up in the air at the moment because Elaram is basically completely MIA. Almost no one has the slightest clue where she is. Apparently she's very, very busy and just fine, but it's very much unknown right now if Red Power is going to be updated again anytime soon, if at all. So there's a lot of murmurs of it being removed from Direwolf and all manners of Feed the Beast, which is a problem because we use it in a few different places right now. But if we switch over to Applied Energistics, which is a fairly up-and-coming mod and has almost entirely just storage stuff in it at the moment. There's, like, automated crafting, but that takes a huge resource investment. And I kind of like it because it actually requires that you have a power supply. It's like, the way that Applied Energistics works is it converts your items that you want to store into data, which, this being a video game, is a bit meta, and then stores it on a disk. Or send her an if you want to, you can set it up to send it to an attached a barrel at her chest attached to the system, which is good for us. And that it actually allows you to store in a single block, like I think it's even like one storage disk, more items than a fully upgraded barrel. So it's actually like even more dense storage, and you can do that for like, I think it's like 12 or 16, something like that, items in a single block. So that's like 8 upgraded, like several really upgraded barrels in one block. It's really cool stuff. I'll have to show that off sometime. Even allows you to like wirelessly request stuff be crafted without having to go through all the stages, which is really cool. So yeah, that'll be fun to mess with, and we can use it to replace a lot of the Red Power stuff that's presently in use in Monroeville and other places. We're presently using just factorization stuff here at the Night of the Living Dead build, which is helpful because that's fine as far as I know. But that's something for another episode. What else is going on? Well, yes, there's the hats mod. We added a bunch of mods and it took us forever to get them all working properly, and the installation instructions for everyone on the server now are getting to be a bit of a complex blank. Gar might... I say this because... Yeah, that was just me saying his name so you could all see how it's spelt. Tom Savini. As if the episode title wasn't enough for you. Yeah, Gar might do an updated video on installing the Chaosville mod pack. I don't know that for certain. I am just saying it because he has done in the past, and this is getting a bit complex. I don't know offhand how many mods we now have in the Chaosville mod pack, but it is getting to be quite a few. I can't switch that out because that's not actually a slab. That's going to be one of the biggest hits to us here on Chaosville, is losing the micro blocks from Red Power. It's like we can see that making the sink there. and I'm going to be using them quite a bit in the rest of this build. Eeh. We're also going to be we can reasonably replace like the circuitry elements with computer crafted stuff. Slight problem being that the bundled wire that we're using, and that is very helpful if you're doing a lot of computer craft stuff, is an add-on from Red Power. So I'm hoping the computer craft guys, I think it's there's the lead dev, I think, really possibly the only dev on the computer craft mod actually happens to have the same name as the guy who played Harry Potter, whose name completely escapes me right now. But yeah, hopefully they'll put in something for bundled wire, because it'd be a real shame to lose that. But that's all for now. I shall see you next time.